15 years. That's around 5,500 days, 130,000 odd hours and almost 500 million seconds. It's also how long it's been since Tottenham Hotspur last won a major trophy. In that time they've had 12 separate managers, have spent over £1 billion, have moved to the other side of London for 18 months and then moved back, and even watched Leicester get relegated down to League One, promoted back to the Championship, promoted once again to the Premier League, win the League, FA Cup and Community Shield, and then get relegated back down to the Championship. To put it simply, Spurs fans are absolutely desperate for a trophy. However, in the last few years, that goal has been getting further and further away from them. But then on the 6th of June this year, a certain Greek-born ex-Australian international was brought to North London. This is how Ange Postecoglou could revive this Spurs side and end their long-lasting trophy drought. Now, before I get straight onto how the Australian could do well at Tottenham, I do think it's important to give a little bit of context as to how each party's found themselves in this position. Despite winning the League Cup in February 2008, Spurs would actually finish that season in 11th, just 10 points off relegation. And by November of the same year, Juan de Ramos, the man who guided Spurs to their League Cup success, would be sacked and replaced by Harry Redknapp with the club bottom of the league. Redknapp would start a process of building though, spending wisely and even guiding them to the Champions League just 18 months after taking over at the foot of the table, before in 2012 Andre Villas-Boas replaced him despite Redknapp once again having made a top 4 finish. The Portuguese would fail to really make his mark at White Hart Lane, departing a year and a half later, where following Tim Sherwood seeing out the season, Mauricio Pochettino would be appointed in the summer of 2014. And despite having seen growth in league finishes over this time, Tottenham had failed to win a trophy in the 6 years since their 2008 win, something that would continue to be a theme during the Argentine's time at the club. 5th, 3rd and 2nd place finishes in the league were matched with continued disappointment in the cups, and after the 17-18 season saw them drop back down a place in the league, Tottenham saw a summer in which they wouldn't sign a single player, something that would prove to be a huge mistake. In the following campaign, Spurs would drop another place to 4th, and after heartbreaking the Champions League final, they'd see an awful start to the next season, where Mauricio Pochettino was then sacked by the club. And following this, it seemed like Levy had become obsessed with bringing in managers with a proven track record of winning trophies, however failed to take into account how they match with the squad, where we then saw a previously attacking and fun side to watch become a dull and defensive one. Mourinho had been brought in and got them to a League Cup final, but they were sacked days before it, with the club falling short in the Premier League. His replacement would then be Nuno Espirito Santo, another defensive manager, and another sacking, this time after just a couple months in charge. He would then be replaced by Antonio Conte, who was sacked earlier this year, with Spurs not having a manager see out an entire campaign in 4 years now. And so, why did all this happen? Well, firstly, Mauricio Pochettino has never really backed properly in the transfer window due to the fact that Spurs had built a new £1 billion stadium, putting them hundreds of millions in debt. And this debt then led Daniel Levy to grow a heavily results-focused mentality instead of looking at the bigger picture, as the monetary value of qualifying for the Champions League is so huge. However, because of this mindset, Spurs have started to finish in the top 4 less consistently than previously, with the last 5 seasons seeing as many top 4 finishes as Harry Redknapp's 3-year spell in charge, which was deemed not good enough by Levy just a decade ago. Just as importantly though, the club have completely lost their way on the pitch, with a squad that can now only play defensive football in a 5-at-the-back system, due to the fact Levy allowed the likes of Mourinho and Conte to spend big compared to Mauricio Pochettino, who often had to work with nothing. Luckily for Spurs fans though, it seems that Daniel Levy has seen the light with the appointment of Ange Postecoglou. Now let's make something clear. Is Postecoglou a proven winner at the very top level? No. Has he dominated in a European competition? Again, no. Is he going to be able to pull the biggest names across the world to join the club? For the 3rd time, no. But they've had managers who tick off those categories for the last 4 years, and look where it's got them. And just to be clear here, Ange Postecoglou is far from this bum who doesn't know how to win like rival fans are describing him. At his first club, South Melbourne, he won 4 trophies in 4 years before a move to the Australian under-20 side, where he won countless more tournaments. He then joined Brisbane Roar in 2009, winning another 3 trophies in 3 years before being appointed as a senior men's national team coach, where he won their first and only ever Asian Cup, as well as managing them in an impressive 2014 World Cup performance. More importantly than that though, in my opinion, is his next job, where he was recruited by the City Group, something that's a testament to his quality as a manager, taking over in Yokohama where he'd win the J-League, but more importantly developed his skill set and tactical ability, learning principles of Pep Guardiola's greatest teams. Come June 2021, and he took his talents to Europe for the first time, taking over at Celtic with the club at their lowest point in well over a decade. His appointment was ridiculed and laughed at by fans and media across the country, and after a rocky start to the season which saw them down in 6th and bottom of the Europa League group, having failed to even qualify for the Champions League, many people were counting the days until he got sacked. But then out of nowhere, everything clicked. Celtic fans started to enjoy likely the highest quality of football Scotland has ever seen, with inverting fullbacks and positional rotations galore, as well as intricate passing moves and intense pressing sequences that saw Celtic rise up to the top of the league in success in the Scottish League Cup before then going one further this season and winning the treble. And I know I'm going to sound crazy here, but I genuinely think before Man City's demolition of the Etihad, it was actually Celtic who caused Real Madrid the most problems in the Champions League this season, despite going on to lose 3-0. And so, what does all of this mean for Tottenham fans? Well, if I were watching this in the lily-white side of North London, I'd personally be very, very excited going into the next campaign. Firstly, Ange Postecoglou is quite possibly the best fit for Tottenham at this point in time. Not only does the Australian know how to perform in front of huge crowds of over 60,000 every other week, but he's also got an incredible eye for a player, meaning if anyone's going to help integrate the talent coming out of their youth academy, it's going to be the Australian. He'll also be able to get the best out of this squad, making it fitter, technically stronger and simply a more cohesive unit. And with the club targeting David Raya already, it's quite clear that Tottenham are going to start playing some strong football in the relatively near future. One thing I will say though is that Spurs fans are going to have to be very, very patient. Sure, Postecoglou was able to turn Celtic around in just a few months, but they had much more money to spend and a more technical squad than pretty much any other team in the league, which meant that the process was obviously going to be a lot quicker than the one at Spurs will be. Tottenham have a truly underwhelming squad which needs improvement in nearly every area, and so I wouldn't be overly surprised if they can only muster up a Conference League finish this upcoming season. However, give him some time and a little bit of money to spend each window and Ange Postecoglou will turn this squad around. Once he has the squad he wants and needs, expect Postecoglou's Tottenham to build up in a 2-3 shape or more likely a 3-2 shape given the transitional threat of teams in the Premier League, whilst also having a man occupying every channel at the top end of the pitch, stretching defences apart and ideally cutting through them with ease, and if possession is turned over then an intense press will start to win it back. Or to put all that more simply, once Postecoglou has built the squad he needs, Spurs will be a very good team. However, there is one limiting factor which will determine how successful Postecoglou is at Spurs: Daniel Levy. In a world where Daniel Levy backs Postecoglou for 3 or 4 summer transfer windows and Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola and potentially even Erik ten Hag have left the Premier League for new challenges, I think the Australian could potentially win Spurs their first ever league title since the early 60s. But at the same time, if Daniel Levy and the Spurs scouting team try to sign players for cheap who simply aren't good enough while expecting Champions League football every year, things simply won't work out for the Australian at Tottenham. If I had to predict things right now, I don't think Postecoglou will ever guide Tottenham to a league title. However, if he's given a good summer spend each season, there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be the man to end Tottenham's trophy drought. And at the start of this video, I mentioned Harry Redknapp and how he helped progress Spurs from a mid-table club into one competing for Europe, which in turn allowed Mauricio Pochettino to come in and take them to the next level, a role I expected Postecoglou to fill at Tottenham. However, after looking into him and thinking on it further, I truly do believe that the Australian is far closer to Mauricio Pochettino and could potentially even be better. And by the way, that's not taking anything away from Harry Redknapp, who was certainly a good manager in his prime. These should be exciting times for Spurs fans, and who knows, in a few years' time they might all be talking about where they were when Ange Postecoglou arrived in North London.